They thought they understood humanity. Every council in the galaxy, every species that had ever fought beside or against Earth, believed the human gift was adaptability, courage, innovation, maybe stubbornness. But no one had ever seen what happened when humanity stopped adapting and started refining. It began on the rim world of Atheon 4, where the Council of Systems called for reinforcements. The War of the Veil had burned through entire armadas. Even the warborn Scythery and the machine-minded Car were collapsing. They needed soldiers who could fight in places sanity could not reach. The humans answered. The first transports arrived in silence. No banners, no hymns, just gray hulls scarred from unrecorded battles. The aliens waited on the landing field, whispering among themselves. The Scythery general clicked his mandibles nervously. Where are the rest of them? The human regiments are smaller than expected. The human officer who stepped down wore no rank insignia. His eyes were hidden behind black lenses that reflected the stormlight. This is the regiment, he said quietly. There were 50 of them. Only 50. The general flared his frills in disbelief. 50 soldiers against an empire? The human's lips curved faintly. 50 Revenant Division. That's all you need. The wind carried the sound of their boots, not the synchronized march of ordinary troops but the sound of predators walking through familiar hunting grounds. Their armor wasn't regulation, every plate looked different, custom-grown, half metal, half scar tissue. Veins of blue light pulsed beneath the surface. Some moved with mechanical precision, others with the twitching grace of beasts. One alien whispered, "They smell of death." The human smiled at that. Good. Then you already understand what follows them. The first battle came sooner than planned. The Veil fleets hit Atheon, for within hours, dark ships bleeding through folded space, pouring drones and horrors into the atmosphere. The alien lines broke in minutes. But the humans didn't retreat. The Revenant Division moved like a single organism. Silent division protocols controlled their formation, mechanical implants amplified their strength, and beneath it all beat the savage heart of the Primals. They hunted through the dust, tearing apart the invaders with bare hands when ammunition ran dry. A Scythery observer recorded the moment one of them, a woman known only as Hale-Nine, leapt onto a drone carrier, ripped open its hull, and fed a grenade into its core while still clinging to the metal skin. When the blast cleared, she walked out of the smoke, armor glowing red, eyes bright with something that wasn't entirely human. The observer whispered, "Are they machines?" The human commander replied, "They were. Once. Until war taught them to be more." By nightfall, the Veil fleets withdrew. Atheon 4 was a graveyard of metal and ash. The aliens stood in the aftermath, counting their dead, and realizing the humans had lost none. Not one. That night, beneath the shattered moon, the commander gathered his warriors. They stood in a ring of burning wreckage, faces lit by firelight. They wanted soldiers, he said, voice low. We gave them something better. We gave them nightmares that fight for our side. No one laughed. Because deep down, even among humans, the Revenant Division was feared. They were the experiment humanity promised to never repeat, soldiers built from silence, resurrected from the edge of death, trained to unleash the instincts evolution had tried to bury. And the galaxy had just invited them back. By dawn, the smoke had turned silver. The bodies of the Veil creatures were still steaming, their black armor dissolving into ash under the rising light. The alien commanders walked through the battlefield in silence, trying to understand what had happened. The human commander, Hale-Nine's superior, stood on a ridge with his helmet tucked under one arm. His face was lined and quiet, the look of a man who had seen too many ends of worlds. His name was Captain Reiss, but among his soldiers he was simply Father. A Scythery officer approached carefully. "Captain, our sensors recorded energy spikes that shouldn't exist. Organic and mechanical both. How did you?" Reiss didn't turn. You wanted a war fought in the dark. We were made for it. The officer hesitated. Your kind frightens even your allies. Reiss gave a faint, humorless smile. Good. That means we're doing it right. Behind him, the Revenant Division moved through the ruins in disciplined silence. Each one carried an aura of something that wasn't just power, it was finality, the cold stillness of creatures who no longer feared death because they had already met it. When the transport ships arrived to collect them, the alien commanders expected rest, debriefings, strategy meetings. Instead, the Revenants rearmed, reloaded, and stood by for redeployment orders. No one had to ask why. 2 days later, the distress call came from the Ark Sprawl, a chain of orbital cities being eaten alive by the Veil. Civilians trapped, communications dead, atmosphere bleeding into space. The Galactic Council called for every available unit. The humans didn't wait for permission. When the Revenant Division dropped out of faster than light, the sprawl was already burning. Fragments of city domes glittered like falling stars. The Veil's swarm ships crawled over the station's hull like insects, drilling through bulkheads, flooding the decks with shadowborn soldiers. Reiss's voice filled the comms, calm and measured. No noise. No chatter. The enemy listens. The division moved. 50 drop pods streaked through the black, entering the breach zones with surgical precision. Impact, hull, decompression, silence. The first alien survivors saw them emerge from the vacuum itself, armor glowing like dying coals. The Revenants didn't need atmosphere for long. Their lungs were half-synthetic, their blood threaded with nanite repair colonies. One of the sprawl guards screamed, "How are you still alive out there?" A soldier turned his helmet toward him, voice like static. "We forgot how to die." Inside the station, chaos reigned. Veil creatures crawled on walls and ceilings, whispering in 1,000 tongues. The humans answered with controlled violence, no wasted motion, no hesitation. A primal growl accompanied each strike, the ancient rhythm of beasts returning to the hunt. Hale-Nine fought at the front. Her claws, carbon spurs grafted into her gauntlets, tore through alien carapace as she moved from room to room, marking the path for her squad. Each kill fed the suit's neural matrix, sharpening reflexes until her movements were almost inhumanly smooth. In the command center, Reiss watched through helmet feeds. The aliens around him stared at the monitors in silent horror. "They don't just fight," one whispered. "They feed on it." Reiss didn't deny it. They remember what it means to be predators. By the time the Veil fleet realized what had entered the sprawl, it was too late. The division detonated the reactor cores in perfect sequence, vaporizing the enemy boarding craft, sealing the rift. As the last explosion rolled through the void, Hale-Nine's transmission came through the static. "Ark Sprawl secure. We'll need resupply." Reiss closed his eyes for a moment. Even his voice, when he answered, carried no triumph. Only exhaustion. "Copy that. Good work, Revenant Division. Prepare for extraction." The alien admiral beside him exhaled slowly. "Captain, how many of your people were lost?" Reiss looked at the screen. The data feed showed 50 green signals. "None." The admiral's crest flattened in disbelief. "That's impossible." Reiss finally turned, his expression unreadable. "We stopped believing in impossible a long time ago." He watched the debris drift past the viewport, the corpses of enemies and allies alike. In the distance, the humans were already boarding their transports, silent as ghosts. In the void between stars, rumors began to spread. The Veil had not just been defeated, they had been hunted. Something ancient had returned to humanity's veins, something the galaxy had hoped would stay buried. They had asked for soldiers. And humanity had given them predators in human form. Word of the Revenant Division moved faster than their ships. On every world that still had a signal relay, the vids replayed the same haunting images, 50 human soldiers walking through fire, carrying no banners, leaving no wounded behind. The footage was grainy, but the sound carried, low roars and the steady thud of armored boots. The Galactic Council gathered on Helios Prime to discuss the human problem. The chamber was a cathedral of glass and metal, filled with species that had not agreed on anything in centuries. Yet this time their voices were one note of unease. The Valka Chancellor clicked his mandibles. You called them allies. What you delivered are monsters. The human ambassador, old and tired, rubbed his temple. You asked for victory. We sent the ones who guarantee it. They are not soldiers, the Chancellor hissed. They are extinction given form. The ambassador didn't deny it. Then pray they stay on our side. Aboard the Vigilant Dawn, Captain Reiss stared at the holographic map. The next target was marked in crimson, Nix 7, a gas giant ring station swallowed by Veil corruption. The mission was considered suicide. He smiled faintly at that word. Suicide had lost meaning to people who had already died once. He tapped his comm, Revenant Division, prepare for descent. The hangar lights dimmed. 50 soldiers knelt to check their gear, each gesture mechanical, ritualistic. Hale-Nine looked up at him as he passed. Orders? Simple, Reiss said. We burn the infection down to the core. The drop pods launched into the storm of Nix 7. Lightning danced across their hulls as they plunged through the violet clouds. The temperature spiked, pressure screamed, and still they kept falling. Inside her pod, Hale-Nine whispered the mantra every Revenant learned on Rebirth: fear is the last thing we gave away. The pods punched through the station hull like meteors. The Veil creatures were waiting, vast shapes of shifting metal and flesh, their whispers crawling through comms. The division emerged into chaos and made it quiet again. Every shot, every movement was perfect symmetry between human instinct, machine precision, and the savage rhythm that pulsed in their engineered hearts. When ammunition ran out, they fought with claws, with teeth, with the unbreakable will that no laboratory could ever build. Hours passed. The station fell silent. The infection burned away in cleansing fire. When extraction finally arrived, Reiss reported only 2 words: Nix 7 secure. No one asked how many enemies had died. The number didn't matter anymore. Back on Helios Prime, the Council replayed the data. One alien strategist whispered, they don't fight wars, they end them. Another asked, and when there are no more wars to end? No one answered. Reiss sat alone in the observation deck of the Vigilant Dawn. Beyond the viewport stretched the stars, cold, infinite, indifferent. Hale-Nine joined him quietly. They fear us now, she said. They should, he replied. But fear has a price. Sooner or later, someone will decide they can't live with us. She looked at him, eyes glinting faint blue in the dark. And what then? Reiss smiled without warmth. Then we remind them why the galaxy asked for soldiers, and got something else. He turned back to the stars. Somewhere out there, another distress call was waiting. The Revenant Division became legend faster than any fleet could travel. Every battle report, every shaky transmission from burning worlds repeated the same line: the humans arrived. The humans ended it. But legend brings fear, and fear brings plotting. On Helios Prime the Council met again, lights dimmed so the stars above them burned like judgment. They're too effective, the Chancellor said, clicking his mandibles. Every victory is theirs. Every camera sees only them. The rest of us look like prey hiding behind their shadow. A soft-voiced scholar from the aquatic Murren added, their biology is no longer entirely human. What if they stop listening? Silence. The human ambassador finally spoke. They don't take orders. They take direction. That was the agreement when you asked for them. The Valka general slammed a clawed fist on the table. We didn't ask for gods of war. The ambassador's eyes were tired. Then perhaps you shouldn't have built altars out of your desperation. Aboard the Vigilant Dawn, Captain Reiss stared at a data stream blinking on his console, an encrypted signal, Earth origin, marked eyes only, Revenant command. He hesitated before opening it. The voice that came through was not military. It was calm, measured, clinical. Captain Reiss. Directive 7 is active. Proceed to coordinates attached. Priority Omega. Do not inform non-human allies. Reiss frowned. Acknowledged. When the transmission cut, Hale-Nine entered silently. Orders? He showed her the coordinates. Outer Rim. Dead sector. No colonies. She tilted her head. Why would Earth send us there? He looked out at the stars. Because something out there scares even them. 3 days later, the division dropped into the void around a nameless moon. No signals. No energy signatures. Just a black scar on the map of the galaxy. They landed on glassed rock. The surface was littered with bones, not alien, not human, something older. Reiss felt the weight of silence pressing against his skull. Helmet filters to max. I want full scans. The sensors screamed static, then cleared, showing shapes buried beneath the crust. Structures. Machines. Hale-Nine crouched beside one, brushing away dust. The surface pulsed faintly under her touch. It's alive. The ground trembled. From beneath the crust rose a construct the size of a city, petals of black metal unfolding like a flower made of knives. Lights flared, deep red, ancient. The comms filled with a voice that wasn't a voice at all, a vibration that rattled through bone and metal alike. Children of war, return to the source. Every revenant froze as their implants responded to the signal. Their HUDs flickered. Pulse lines synced to an alien rhythm. Hale-Nine's breath caught. It's inside our systems. Reiss gritted his teeth. Kill your feeds. Manual only. Now. The soldiers obeyed. One by one the lights on their armor went dark, leaving them standing in the shadow of the awakening machine. The voice continued, soft and endless. You were made from us. Reiss felt it in his mind, images of laboratories, of human scientists working beside something hidden, something not human. The truth settled like lead. They didn't build us, he whispered. They finished us. The structure pulsed again, brighter, hungrier. Hale-Nine raised her weapon. Orders? Reiss looked up at the monolith. We end it. Same as always. The division opened fire. Beams of plasma cut through the darkness, lighting the moon like sunrise. The construct screamed, not in sound, but in gravity and light. Shards of space itself cracked around it. The Revenants fought through the distortion, half blind, half mad, driven by the oldest instinct left in them, destroy the thing that made you afraid. When the dust settled, the moon was breaking apart. The construct lay still, bleeding black fire into the void. Reiss stood amid the ruin, helmet off, face streaked with ash. Whatever they were, they built us for this. Hale-Nine watched the wreckage fall toward the gas giant below. Then what happens when there's nothing left to kill? Reiss didn't answer. The question hung there, heavier than the silence. Word of what happened on that nameless moon never reached the public feeds. The council only saw fragments, distorted telemetry, a star gone dark, a whisper about human ships leaving orbit with damaged hulls and silent comms. On Helios Prime the delegates gathered again, but this time the human seat was empty. The chamber's light filters turned everything the color of old blood. The Valka general hissed, they triggered something ancient. Our long-range sensors recorded a gravitational wound where that moon used to be. The Murran scholar's voice trembled. If that artifact was pre-galactic, it could have been a containment system. They might have released enough, the Chancellor cut in. They no longer answer to this council. We must assume the humans have gone rogue. No one argued. Fear had already decided for them. Aboard the Vigilant Dawn, Reiss sat in the dim glow of the bridge. Every system was running on manual power. The data core held fragments of what the construct had broadcast before they destroyed it, coordinates, schematics, and a single repeating phrase in translated code, cycle incomplete. Hale-Nine leaned against the bulkhead. Whatever that thing was, it wanted us back. Maybe we're the piece it lost. Reiss didn't look up. Maybe Earth knew all along. The rest of the division stayed silent, performing their maintenance rituals with mechanical calm. Their armor still carried faint scars that wouldn't heal, glowing with residual red light from the alien signal. "Captain," one of the younger soldiers said, voice filtered through static, "orders from Earth are still locked. No response to our last 3 transmissions." Reiss finally stood. "Then we find out why." The jump to Sol was rough. Their drives groaned, space itself resisting. When they emerged, Earth hung below them, blue, calm, too calm. Orbit was crowded with satellites that weren't broadcasting. "Where are the patrols?" Hale-Nine asked. "Gone," Reiss said quietly. "Look at the debris field over Africa. Those are military hulls. They descended through atmosphere, smoke trails painting the sky. What had once been humanity's capital was silent. Cities dark, oceans reflecting firelight from burning orbital wreckage. The Revenants moved through empty streets where drones hovered aimlessly, systems still running routines without purpose. Then they found it, the main control node of the global defense network, doors sealed from the inside. Reiss forced them open. Inside, the air was stale, and holographic projectors flickered with half-dead code. A single message looped on every screen, his own face recorded years ago, before the augmentations, before the division. "If you are seeing this, the experiment has gone beyond control. The Revenant prototypes are self-propagating. Do not recall them. Do not engage. Evacuate the surface." The recording glitched, repeating the words "do not engage" until the sound distorted into white noise. Hale-Nine whispered, "We were the experiment." Reiss clenched his fists. "No. We were the answer." He turned to the squad. "Earth is gone. The Council wants control. That means we're next. They'll come for us." The soldiers didn't flinch. Hale-Nine asked, "Then what's the mission now?" Reiss looked at the blue horizon. "Same as always. Protect humanity, even from itself." On Helios Prime, new orders were already being written. The Council had reclassified the Revenant Division as a Class Omega threat. Every fleet was to converge on Sol for a containment operation. The Valka generals' eyes gleamed. They made themselves monsters. "We will put them down like monsters." The Murin scholar hesitated. "And if we fail?" The general's claws clicked. "Then the galaxy ends screaming." In orbit, the Revenant Division prepared. 50 soldiers against 1,000 ships. Hale-Nine stood beside Reiss on the observation deck. "If this is the end..." He interrupted gently. "It's not. Endings are for people who still believe they can stop evolution." The comms alarm flared, enemy fleets dropping out of FTL. The sky filled with light. Reiss lifted his helmet, sealed it, and his voice became the old command tone again, calm, cold, final. "Division, lock formations. Silent protocols. Let's remind them why they asked for us." The stars themselves seemed to dim as 50 Revenants armed for the last war. The first impact was silent. Light reached them before sound did, columns of plasma cutting through the upper atmosphere like falling suns. Every Revenant's visor dimmed automatically, every heart kept its rhythm exactly in sync with the others. Reiss didn't issue orders. He didn't need to. The division moved as one organism. When the first shockwave rolled through their formation, Hale-Nine felt it not as motion but as an echo inside her skull, a ripple through a shared field. Her vision split. For a heartbeat she saw 1,000 other views, her squad mates' targets, the curvature of Earth below, the heat signatures of ships kilometers away, and then it all snapped back into focus. The implants had always been neural bridges, meant to make coordination faster. Now they did something else. They blended. Her own thoughts brushed Reiss's for the briefest instant. "I see them." His reply wasn't words, just intention, fire. Lances of light erupted from their gunports, threading the sky. Enemy shields flared and collapsed. For every ship they destroyed, 10 more filled the void. Then came the memories. Not hers. Not anyone's she knew. An ocean that wasn't Earth's. Creatures of metal and bone weaving cities in the dark. Suns igniting like candles. Extinction, then rebirth. It all came in flashes through the neural weave, as if their implants were replaying a record from the ancient construct. Hale-Nine staggered inside her exosuit. "Captain, these images, what is this?" Reiss's voice was steady. "Keep formation. They're residue. Don't let them anchor." But he felt it too. Every Revenant did. When the next salvo hit, he barely noticed the impact. He was somewhere else, standing in that alien ocean, watching Titans rise from trenches, feeling the cold purpose of a civilization that refused to die. The realization arrived like a physical force. The code wasn't just data, it was memory. A record of survival passed from one dying species to the next. Hale-Nine's voice cut through the network. "Sir, the signal's adjusting to us. It's learning." Reiss answered through the link, his thoughts calm, deliberate. "Then we learn faster." They did. Reaction times compressed until seconds felt like hours. Weapons fired before targets appeared. The line between instinct and algorithm disappeared. One soldier fell, the others absorbed his remaining neural stream. His experiences, his last images, folded seamlessly into the group. Somewhere in the chaos, Hale-Nine realized she could no longer tell which hands were hers. Every motion she made carried the ghost of a dozen others, a harmony of reflexes built from shared experience. It should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt inevitable. When the fleet's second wave closed in, the Revenants adapted again. No signals, no commands. Their armor reconfigured, colors shifting to absorb incoming radiation. Someone, somewhere inside the collective, must have found a new function in the alien code, and the rest simply understood it. Through the neural haze, Reiss caught fragments of memory, human memories now, home, laughter, gravity's warmth, and he anchored them against the flood. He broadcast one clear thought across the network: remember why. The weave steadied. For a brief moment, individuality returned. Then the Council fleet launched the final barrage, a curtain of antimatter shells meant to sterilize the entire orbit. The division dove. Engines howled, armor glowed red. They fell through fire, a rain of metal descending toward the blue curve of Earth. Each Revenant saw not destruction, but continuity, flashes of ancient lives, human and alien alike, all fighting the same battle against extinction. And somewhere beneath that storm of data and flame, something new began to take shape, a pattern in their shared minds, still fragile, still human at its core. Reiss felt it forming and whispered, almost prayer-like, "We're not their soldiers anymore." The network pulsed in reply, not words, but agreement. They plunged into atmosphere, a single burning constellation, the memory of 1,000 lost civilizations carrying them home. They hit atmosphere like falling stars, streaking fire across the clouds. Fragments of armor peeled away, glowing and dying in the sky. When the shock finally ended, the Revenants lay scattered across the remains of what had once been the European continent. Silence. whined through metal bones. Reiss forced his armor open and stepped onto cracked soil. He could still feel the faint hum of the neural weave in the back of his skull, thinner now, quieter, but not gone. Hale-Nine's voice came through the static, counting survivors, 7. Maybe 8 if the signal stabilizes. He looked around. The land was gray, glassed in places where orbital fire had kissed the ground. The ruins of cities rose like fossilized ribs. And yet, beneath the ash, green pushed through, small, stubborn leaves cutting into light. Life, Hale-Nine said softly. After everything. Reiss nodded. The cycle doesn't end. It adapts. He crouched, brushing dust from the soil. Beneath his fingers pulsed faint warmth, almost organic. The same resonance they'd felt from the alien construct. It wasn't coming from below, it was growing. The others gathered. Each felt it, the hum beneath their feet syncing with their heartbeats. Memories flickered again, glimpses of alien species rebuilding after ruin, always leaving something behind for the next to find. Hale-Nine whispered, "We're the next." Reiss didn't argue. Maybe that's what the signal wanted. Not obedience, continuity. They moved through the dead city. Ancient drones still patrolled on looping routines, mistaking the Revenants for their makers. The soldiers walked among them like ghosts, each step stirring dust that glowed faintly blue. In the distance, thunder rolled, but it wasn't weather. The first of the Council dropships were entering atmosphere, chasing the same coordinates. Reiss looked up. "They're coming to finish it." "No," Hale-Nine said, her eyes catching the light from the clouds. "They're coming to witness it." The weave pulsed again, stronger now. Every surviving Revenant felt the rhythm of the earth, the code knitting itself into their biology. They weren't just linked by implants anymore, the pattern had become part of their cells. Reiss saw flashes, the Council fleets burning, their data absorbed into the cycle, the ocean alive with new forms, a seed of consciousness spanning worlds. The sky darkened as the dropships broke through. Reiss lifted his helmet back into place. "Division," he said quietly. "No more killing if we can help it. Show them what we are now." When the first alien squads touched down, the ground itself shimmered. The soil beneath their boots pulsed with the same faint light. A Valka officer stepped forward, weapon drawn. "By order of the Galactic Council, you are to surrender immediately." Reiss approached, unarmed. "You came looking for monsters. You found the future." The Valka hesitated. The air around them was alive with static, particles dancing in strange, geometric patterns. One of the alien soldiers reached out and touched it, the field wrapped around his hand like liquid glass. He gasped. "It's showing me my homeworld. My people." "The cycle," Hale-Nine said. "It remembers all of us." The alien lowered his weapon slowly. Above them, the cloud split, revealing stars, and in that moment, every living mind in orbit, human or otherwise, felt the same surge of memory and emotion, an invitation, not a command. Reiss turned to his squad. "It's not a war anymore. It's a handoff." Hale-Nine smiled faintly through the helmet's glow. "Then maybe we finally won." They stood among the ruins as light spread from the soil, flowing outward across continents, stitching the planet's wounds shut with threads of energy and life. And for the first time since the wars began, the galaxy went silent, not in fear, but in awe. The light spread slowly at first, weaving across continents, touching oceans, igniting dormant forests with faint pulses of energy. Every living thing felt it. The hum beneath the soil, the faint pull in their bones, the whisper of memory they couldn't place. Captain Reiss stood atop the shattered remnants of a cathedral, helmet off, watching the glow sweep outward. Hale-Nine at his side, their squad scattered but whole. 7 souls who had seen death, rebirth, and the edges of time itself. They were no longer soldiers. They were something new. Above, the Council ships lingered in orbit, hesitant. No weapons fired. The aliens aboard sensed it too, the subtle shift in reality, the pull of the cycle threading through their very perception. For the first time, they felt the humans not as opponents, not as tools, but as keepers of the unknown. One alien, a Valka officer who had descended with his troops, whispered through a translator, voice shaking, they carry everything. Reiss nodded. Everything we've been, everything that came before us. The cycle doesn't stop. We don't fight it. We continue it. Hale-Nine looked down at her hands, glowing faintly with the remnants of the weave. And what about us? What becomes of the Revenants? Reiss studied the pulsing ground. We were made to survive the impossible. But survival isn't enough anymore. We adapt. We evolve. The earth beneath them responded. Cracks of energy stitched themselves into the planet's crust, stabilizing the wounds from orbital bombardments, stabilizing the oceans, repairing cities, or at least their foundations. The cycle wasn't just a weapon. It was preservation, memory, and legacy all at once. The other Revenants gathered around them. Each one felt the echo of past lives flowing through them, alien and human, mechanical and primal. Every instinct they had honed for war now bent towards something greater, continuity. Above, the Council watched, powerless to intervene. For decades they had underestimated humanity. For decades they had sought control. Now they saw the truth: humans did not obey, humans did not yield, and humans did not fight like anything they could define. They adapted, yes. They destroyed, yes. But most terrifying of all, they endured. And what endured would outlast fleets, worlds, and even empires. Reiss raised his hand, not as a commander, but as a sentinel. The light from the cycle wrapped around them, weaving their presence into the planet itself. The Revenants were no longer merely human, they were part of the pattern, part of something eternal. Hale-Nine smiled faintly, almost at peace. Then we go forward. Not as soldiers, but as guardians. The stars above pulsed in response. The galaxy held its breath. The cycle expanded beyond Earth, unseen but undeniable. Memory, life, instinct, and legacy flowed outward, threading planets, systems, and distant stars. Across the void, alien species watched, uncomprehending yet aware. Humanity had sent the warriors they feared most, and those warriors had become the vessels of something far beyond war. And in the quiet aftermath, Reiss whispered to his squad, voice carried through the weave. We survive. We endure. We are the cycle. The Revenants stood silently, golden light dancing along their armor. The galaxy did not cheer. It did not weep. It only watched, humbled, awed, and forever changed. Somewhere in the pulse of the cycle, the universe remembered itself, and humanity had written its signature across the stars. The war was over. The soldiers had arrived. And they were nothing the galaxy had expected.